Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Torah review. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Our zip code is 11231. Giving glory, honor, and praises to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one and only God, the living God, the one who created us all and not all us ourselves. Thanking the creator of heaven and earth for all things and everything. For that, we must all say hallelujah, giving glory to the creator of heaven and earth once again for being who he is. We're going to go through another Tanakh and Torah review. Today's portion being the portion of Korach, which will be done by none other than one of my mentors and my teachers, Nasik, Zurishaddai Yehudah. Also giving due respect to the leader of our congregation, Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaskar. May the Most High God be with him and his family and bless him. Also thanking the Most High God for all of you diligent listeners who listen on a weekly basis, who come onto our channel and listen on a weekly basis. We thank you all for listening to us and for sticking with us and making us the program that we are. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great. Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform on D.C.B platform, spiritually Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Saskar, the host Chief Uziel, to the Prince's Chief, the Rabbinate, brothers and sisters, Kohanines, Marine. Greet you in the time of forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. I also like to say Adonai Septati Dakofia Gichi Atheka. Oh Lord, on down my lips, my mouth shall declare that praise. I'll be dealing with like I said, we're still behind for a moment, behind what normally most people do. So it's a really a big review in the sense that I'm a week behind whatever been going on. And so, but it's always good to go back over some of this stuff. And I mostly be focused on the Haftarah of Korach. But in this episode of Korach, it's really, I find it very intriguing because of the episode and the actual reason why they start to rebel. All right, so without any further ado, we left off with Shalach in the last portion of Shalach, and they was talking about the guy that broke this, picking up sticks on the Shabbat, on the Sabbath. He was stoned to death. And also we got the commandments of fringes, and I said you could spend a long time speaking on fringes, CCO, that they hang on the bottom, on the corners of the garments. And now we goes into the thing concerning Korach. Now, normally, the scriptures don't, especially in Numbers, don't be in a chronological order. So they would consider this between Shalach Lekah and Korach a chronological order by most commentaries and rabbinic sources. So then, and if you look at it more so in the chronological order, then you could see some of the problems, or be able to understand some of the social problems that could possibly exist if we follow this chronological order. Because now we know the last time the spies came back, they had an evil report concerning the land, and people was upset, caused a lot of people to die. They themselves that brought the evil report, they died in the plague, but they were sentenced to 40 years. So a 40-year death march. So now you would say, what is the purpose of moving them forward? If I know I'm gonna die here, because I'm over 20, and now I'm getting ready, all those below 20, and those that's not a Levite, mind you, that's not a Levite. And those guys would be the ones that get into the promised land. And those females that wasn't caught up in the plague, because most of the times most of the females really wasn't getting caught up in a lot of mess as the brothers were during this period of time. So you're gonna have a lot of females make it that's upper age, in their 80s and better. And you have only the Levites that's in age and better, other than Joshua and Caleb, who was in their 80s, early 80s, when they entered the Promised Land. All right, so I'm just going to read and speak on a few things on this particular portion. Now, Korach, the son of Issachar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the son of Eliab, and On, the son of Pele, the sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up in the face of Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 men. They were princes of the congregation and elect men of the assembly, men of renown. So the men of renown is, Anshe and Shem, which means they got a name for themselves. Now, this is not any local group that's coming up, all right, that's going against Moses. This is the high echelon. Now, we always knew, like in the past, we had other issues where people will mumble, grumble, and everything like that. But they had some sort of a genuine reasoning behind it. Either it's water, food, or, little stuff like that. People coming behind them, figure, what we're going to do. But now, with the quail thing, plagues, but now this has become a political movement against Moses. And it says 250. Now we know we had 600,000 men of war, and the 250 princes, and it said men, Anshe, Shem, men with a name. We don't know none of their names, so they're 250 guys. So they say, they're not worth talking about. These are people of high status, high esteem, but yet we don't know their names, but we know the ringleader's name. And yet these guys are really high power, high position people that moved on. So now, if you got 600,000 men of war that's there, and you had the top princes from each tribe, that offer up on during the dedication of the tabernacle, then you will say, what is everybody else doing at this particular point in time? What's going on with everybody else at this particular time and juncture? Being that you have all these guys at this particular time, that standing up, high position, and everybody standing around to see what go down, see how this play out. And what it shows that some people might have thought, hey, they might have a legitimate complaint. They might have an issue for me to stand back, for the rest of the people to stand back and say, let me see how this is going to play out. Now, mind you, 40-year death march. And it goes on to say that, and they assembled themselves against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, you take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Wherefore, then lift ye up yourselves above the assembly of the Lord. Moses must not be part of the congregation of the Lord. That's for one. Now we know they had a tabernacle there, but I'm not going to dig deep into the opening, because I'm sure a lot of y'all heard a lot of stuff already in reference to this. So I just want to get to another particular issue within this particular episode. But legitimately, they said, they got the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and God wanted them to build the tabernacle so he could dwell within each and every individual. So I'm not going to focus on that. I want to go into another area of this confrontation, rebellion. And when Moses heard it, he fell upon his face and spoke unto Korach and to all his company, saying, in the morning, Lord will show who are his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him. Even him whom he may choose will he cause to come near unto him. This do take you censers, Korah, and all his company, and put fire therein, and put incense upon them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord does choose, he shall be holy. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. And Moses said unto Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it but a small thing unto you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near unto himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them, and that he had brought thee near, and all the brethren of the sons of Levi with thee, and you seek the priesthood also? And therefore thou and all that company that are gathered together against the Lord, and as to Aaron, what is he that you murmur against him? Now, before we go a little further, Korah sets it up. This is a family feud, a real family feud. Now, we already know that, earlier, Levites usually was close-knit. First it was Simeon, Levi's bosom buddy. They didn't fall out later till later on, and near the end of the 40-year period. But this is like in the second year that this is getting ready to go down, and near the early part of the second year, at that. And then we know that this is family, cousins. Korah and Moshe are Aaron's first cousins, and then Korah has the opportunity to do what hundreds of thousands cannot do. He's able to go inside and get the holy items such as the Ark of the Covenant, the menorah and stuff like that. Those things was for the sons of Korach to deal with those areas there. So nobody else could go up in there. They was allowed to go up in there. So then the next thing closest to the priest out of all the three divisions of the Levitical order, because you had the Merari, the Gershonites, and the Kohathites, so they are the closest out of all three. They're in front line. So now you have Reubenites, Dathan and Abiram, brethrens, and then you got On, all Reubenites. So what will be Reuben's issue? And then another thing we should think about is Moses fell on his face, not because he was afraid of them, but because of what they're getting ready to put themselves into in that area. So you notice Aaron didn't fall on his face, just Moses fell on his face. And the real issue is that they want to be priests, the Kohathites, and Reuben themselves had their other issues about being the oldest tribe, firstborn, as most people bring out. Now, we know that in the dedication of the tabernacle, first one that offered up was Yehudah. Second one offered up was Issachar. The third one to offer was Zebulun, the camps that's stationed at the east part of the tabernacle. And then Reuben got his chance in the south to be able to offer up on the fourth day. So it might have still felt slighted behind that particular area. Yehudah, one thing, the first time Yehudah was, stepped up in front of Reuben when he secured, when he assured for Benjamin's life. But Issachar, how are you gonna get in front of me? Zebulun, definitely how you gonna get in front of me? So Reuben has an issue being the firstborn tribe. And the firstborn we know from the Chronicles was taken from Reuben and given to the tribe of Joseph amongst his two sons. All right, as we go a little bit further, and a murmur, like I said before in the past, a murmur is when, people got a problem, but they don't want to make their problems clear. But Moses recognized right away that it's not just me that's an issue. It's you want to be priest as an issue. And that's why this is addressed to Korach directly and not to Dathan and Abiram. All right, so, and then in the 12th it said, and Moses sent unto Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and they said, we will not come up. It is a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of the land of flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness. But thou must needs make thyself also a prince over us. Moreover, thou hast not brought us up into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance or fields and vineyards. Will thou put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. That is a real strong statement. You know, he gave him a chance to come up because the contest could be tomorrow. He talked to family members first, because when you have an issue in the family, you talk with the family first. And then if it's outsiders, you address them later. But you first got to see how my blood relationship is working. A lot of people be tighter with the outside than the inside. They'll work with the outside, be close and cool with the inside, and have family feuds going on indefinitely. But here, Moses, he addressed his immediate family member, and then he addressed Dathan and Abiram. And they refused to come up. Said, you can call them up to talk, not to kill them. You know, but they was arrogant, said, look, we're not even answering to you anymore. But yet there was four of them. They all recognized and believed in Moses in the past. But we know what happens now after this here, but I just want to read just a little bit more upcoming. Just focus on this first part of the rebellion. So in the 15th verse, Moses was very wroth and said unto the Lord, despite not thou their offering, I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said unto Korah, be thou and all thy congregation before the Lord, thou and they and Aaron tomorrow, and take ye every man his fire pan, and put incense upon them, and bring ye before the Lord every man his fire pan, 250 fire pans, thou also and Aaron, each his fire pan. And they took every man his fire pan, and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood at the door of the tent of meeting. Excuse me. Stood at the door of the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the congregation. Now, we already know when the wrong people, what happened to Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aharon, when they offer up incense. We already know something in reference to that. So now, here these guys, everybody witnessed that, but they're not afraid. And then Moses already gave them a hint, saying the Creator would choose the man, not men, who will be before him. So right then and there, and letting you know that everybody, even from the get-go, it's not going to be Kohanim. But let's go a little bit further in this episode. And it said, and the Lord spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, separate yourself from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell upon their faces and said, O God, the God of all spirits, a God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will thou be wroth with all the congregation? Now, that means everybody's going to get in some problems. Sometimes you just got to be on the right side of issues, not stand on the sideline waiting for the issues to play out when it affects you. So it teaches you a valuable lesson here, that sometimes you got to be parcel to the right side of the issues. And this time, when you find Aaron, along with Moses, fell down, because you got some people that's really is not on their side, and they're not sure about Moses' position. So I'm not going to go into all the arguments and various bits, because, you know, you heard it from other teachers and sources, but it's good to further discuss issues, you know, in this here, in this political rebellion, because it brings out a lot of interesting points. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speaking to the congregation, saying, get you up from about the dwellings of Dathan, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. I mean, some people was with Moses, but everybody ain't with Moses. And you know what's so ironic? That the elders that's rolling with Moses, evidently they didn't have enough influence to quell that argument. And let you know how powerful a political agenda that was, because these elders, they're supposed to have Moses' spirit and deal with the burden of the people. How come they're not able to quell this argument without bringing the Creator into this situation? That lets you know how serious and how powerful this rebellion was going on. Family Feud. Civil war is always more bloodier than just a war against another nation, because no one is really scared of anybody in the family. You say, you know me. You know, anybody else don't know me, I might tolerate that, but you supposed to know me. So we get that kind of confrontation when it's a family thing. And he spoken to the congregation and depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be swept away in all that sin. So they got them up from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of the tents with their wives and their sons and their little ones. All right, now, that means a lot of people stand on their side. If we had to tell them, people get away from them. That means they convinced a lot of people that they gripe, their argument, their reasoning, and it's very things that's offered up by different commentaries and rabbinic sources, but they convinced enough people that they seem legitimized. But when Moses told them to step away from these wicked men, that should be a clue that they ain't right. That should be a clue in their heart of hearts that they know that they was on the wrong side of the issue from the beginning. And they said they stepped away. That should have been a clue for the guys that still want to carry out their politics. And then it said, hereby you know that the Lord has sent me to do all these work, and that I have not done them of my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, and be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord have not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the ground open her mouth and swallow them up, and all that pertains unto them, and they go down alive to the pit, then you shall understand that these men have despised the Lord. And it came to pass, as he made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground did cleave asunder, that opened under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their household, and all the men that appertained to Korah, and all their goods. So they and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the assembly. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And fire came forth from the Lord and devoured the 250 men that offered the incense. I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna go back to the Haftarah a little bit. But one of the things I like to bring out as I go into the Haftarah, I just wanted to read a thing that they had a lot of, when people know they're on the wrong side and they still waver, teeter-totter, and Moses gave them, an out and prayed for them. That's very important as a leader and a person that's care for an individual, is that whether you care enough to save your people. And so when we look even further into the story, we know that normally a new thing, signs and wonder is enough to convince a person to say, look, this stuff is real. These are the same people that witnessed the crossing of the Yam Suf, the plagues in Egypt, and they recognized manna coming from heaven. They seen the Creator spoke. They seen fire come up and light up the altar. You know, they've seen a lot of stuff. These people seen a lot of stuff, and they was still wasn't satisfied with the miracle of the ground opening up. And you know, it was one of the things that the ground split and then opened its mouth. Normally, you say, well, why don't you just open your mouth? Why split? You know, to let you know that it was a definite thing in that sense, because the ground splits when you get too much of a rain in certain areas. So, and we know that even then, the people didn't stop. They're gonna say, you know, they goes on to talk about that you killed the people of the Lord. Moses is not part of the people of the Lord. They killed the people of the Lord. And then after that, a plague come out. We know that Aaron had to run with incense, and he's still between the dead and the living. So we know that when he's still between the dead and the living, you say, what do that mean? That dead people's on both sides of him, and living people are on both sides of him. That means that all it says is that, and he stopped the plague. Not that everybody on this side was alive and everybody on that side was dead. It's just that he stopped the plague. So evidently let you know that Aaron stopped the plague, but the Creator got who he needed to get within the plague. You know, those that left at that particular time. So those are some of the areas we look at, and we look at and focus on, you know, and when we get involved with that. So now let's go a little bit further. All right. We know that after all that, the last thing was the rod, and that was pretty much it. And the rod was enough, where the miracle of Aaron's rod, buddy, you know, all his rods that was there, the rods of all the tribes, and Aaron's rod was there. So you're having all them represented. So some people say it was 13 rods. Some people say it's 12 rods. I know it's you know, I always listen to the debates over the years, and usually when it came to the offering, only 12 went up. When it comes to the breaststone, only 12 stones is up for the tribe of Joseph. So which part of that is Ephraim? Which part of that is Manasseh? And so a lot of times I would say, you know, this is my viewpoint. It's open for discussion, that there was actually only 12 rods, not 13 rods there in reference to that. Somebody had to take the lead for Joseph. All right. So now we're going to go to the book of Samuel, and the 1 Samuel, the 11th chapter, and we'll be picking it up from the 14th verse. And I like to tell people to go back over and study this, you know, in the Sidra, on the political issues that exist between the rebellion between Dathan and Abiram and Moshe. And you know, a lot of things. One thing, when I taught the Sidra before, I said that power you could share. Moses didn't have a problem when Joshua said, Eldad and Medad was prophesizing in the camp. Moses said, was the God? Everybody was a prophet. You know, all of God's people was a prophet. So he didn't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem his spirit being dropped on 70 elders, 72, you know, counting Eldad and Medad, 72 elders. He didn't have a problem with that. So he didn't have a problem sharing power. But it's a problem when you share authority. When you share power, you become more powerful. But when you share authority, you become weaker. And Moses could not share authority. The authority is already centered and based with the Creator and the people he designated in those particular positions. So you cannot share authority, but you can share power. And when you share power, you become more powerful. When you share authority, you become weaker. So, and that's one of the takeaways from that lesson there. But let's go on the book of Samuel, the 14th verse, the 11th chapter. And this is when the children of Israel were the king. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Give me 1 second here, Prince.
All right. So we know that Saul was chosen to be king, first king. Now we come through a period of judges at this particular time. So there's some backdrop. And when we come to the period of judges, we know that was a tumultuous period where every man did what was right in their own eyesight.
I'm ready.
We know that,
Prince.
Okay. All right.
You said 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 14.
Correct.
It reads, Then said Samuel to the people, Come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before Jehovah in Gilgal. And there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before Jehovah, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly.
Hold on right there. Now, I just want to bring up one point. Why Gilgal? You know, this is the second time Saul was anointed king. Now, we know Gilgal got a lot of history behind it. That's number one. One of the things is that when Joshua first crossed over the Jordan and he circumcised the people the second time, that was at that place Gilgal. We know that 2.5 of the tribes, you know, Reuben and Gad and half tribe of Manasseh stayed on the Transjordan side, you know, and so we know that the tabernacle first rested in Gilgal, then was in Shiloh a bit, but Saul was anointed, you know, one spot, but this is the first time Saul was the first individual, not Samuel. Saul was the first individual, and for us historically, we know he had some ups and downs, that ever united all Israel under one cause and one banner. That's one man. You know, now when we read about when Israel fought against the Benjamites, that's those guys knitted themselves together as one man, but it's going against one tribe. But this is the first time that Saul was ever able to unite both sides. You know, I mean, well, he's the first person to actually unite all Israel. You know, and the judges, guys over this neighborhood, they're over that neighborhood, but Saul becomes a united front. Israel becoming a united front under him. Now, one of the things we know when they asked for a king, we know one of the things when they asked for a king, that Saul didn't want to be king. That's number one. He was hiding. He didn't want to be king. They had to look for him, you know. And the tallest guy, imagine the tallest guy in the nation, and he's squatting and hiding somewhere, you know, ain't nobody going to see him. Because he, you know, he really didn't feel worried. Worthy to be king at the time. Now, we know the story that Samuel thought when we asked for a king, that it was a thing where they thought they rejected him because he was like the last official judge in Israel. And what we find out, God told him, they didn't reject you, they rejected me. So now, if we wanted a king, then what is the reason that Samuel was upset when in Deuteronomy the 17th chapter, it talks about when you come into the land and you will set a king over you, and it got rules for the king. So already in our Torah, centuries ahead of us asking for a king, that we had rules to govern a king. So asking for a king was not the problem. It's why we asked for him became the problem. All right. So now, I read 12th chapter.
1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 1. It reads, And Samuel said unto all Israel, Behold, I have hearkened unto your voice and all that ye said unto me, and I have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walketh before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my youth until this day.
Hold right there. All right. Now, as I was saying about Gilgal, Joshua circumcised the children of Israel a second time. Tabernacle rested there the first time. Also, that's when he staged his attack against Jericho, that particular time. And Joshua was a phenomenal guy, even though he wasn't quite on the same, he wasn't on the same level as Moshe, but he did a miracle that's greater than Moshe. And one of the miracles, when he said, sun stand out still upon Mount Gibeon and moon thou in the valley of Shalom, that's a greater miracle than the Yam Suf opening up and all the nation walking across. That's a greater miracle. Why? Because it's just that water open up. It's a greater miracle than the Jordan standing up, and then, and the people could go out on dry ground, and then it kept flowing downward. So when he told the sun to stand still, don't you know the very planets, the stars, everything had to stop for a moment. That was like a stasis in time. Because if the sun stood still, then all the other cosmos got to stop and halt. So we don't think of it like how great it is, because he said sun stands still in this position and the moon in the valley. So that means if you got two elements already, one to rule the day and one to govern the day and one to govern the night, all other elements in the universe had to be put on hold, and the Creator allowed that to show the greatness. So sometimes we don't think about how great that particular event was, and that much power and miracle that Joshua exhibited at that time. So now, when we're moving on from Gilgal, it's the Transjordan people that being anointed there, he's closer to the other tribes that they didn't have that far to go. So now you got a united front here. All right. And then Samuel said before him that, I have walked before you from my youth until this day. That means Samuel always was on his job. All right. And that means that he led you, led him in a proper path. But like his mentor, Eli, or some people say Eli, his sons were corrupt. He never said sons wasn't corrupt. But yet he said, my sons are still here. They know better, but they won't do better. But now you got a king that they might be forced to do better. Because he never denied the character of his sons. Neither did Eli. So this is an important point to realize that they said the sons were wicked, and what he said. Couldn't defend it. Just like Eli. But let's go a little bit further here, and it's that third verse.
Verse 3 reads, here I am, witness against me before the Yehovah and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose ass have I taken, or whom have I defrauded, or whom have I oppressed, or of whose hand have I taken a ransom to blind mine eyes therewith? And I will restore it you. And they said, thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. And he said unto them, Yehovah is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they said, he is witness.
Why he said that? Because they try to charge Moses with doing this and doing that. When Moses said, I have not taken one thing from him, one ass from him. They haven't taken anything from them people, Dathan and Abiram, and if he was to come up. And when he said, don't have any respect to your sacrifices, the men's sacrifices, they get made off of incense. But when you offer a community sacrifice, that's for everybody in the community, the whole nation. They had sacrifice to represent Israel every single day upon the altar. So when Moses is actually saying that the part that they will be representative in, don't even accept that part. That's 250 guys say, look, don't accept that. And yet you get ready to burn something up. And we know that those guys wind up losing their life, but one of the things it teaches you, which is that no matter how bad you get, their heart was to be worshiping the supreme intelligent universe, and they wanted to be so devoted to the supreme intelligent universe. And God had already said, I'll be sanctified by those that come nigh me, but you ain't qualified to be there. So therefore, the very sense of pans is a reason that they say the brazen altar only had metal halfway up. But when those 250 princes died, then the brazen altar outside where the major sacrifice went on was beaten by Eleazar the priest and finished the altar outside all the way to the top. Just something to think about, that the altar on the outside was halfway done with metal and mostly wood on it. The rest of it was wood and never burnt up. And yet, with those two censer pans, they became holy. Though the guys was extinguished, the pans became holy. So, I mean, the Creator looked, and the Creator said, because it was offered up to him. So to let you know that they weren't trying to serve another God, but they was out of their lane, out of their position. So now Samuel justifying himself and saying, before the Lord and before his anointed. That means the king is it's the next thing before you go to the Creator in civil matters, because this is what he bringing civil matters here. And that's what it is. The civil matters, and the king deal with civil matters, and the priest deal with the spiritual ritual matters. All right, let's go into the 6th verse.
Verse 6 reads, and Samuel said unto the people, it is Yehovah that made Moses and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may plead with you before Yehovah concerning all the righteous acts of Yehovah, which he did to you and to your fathers. When Jacob was come into Egypt, then your fathers cried unto Yehovah, and Yehovah sent Moses and Aaron, who brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and they were made to dwell in this place. But they forgot Yehovah their God, and he gave them over into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazor, into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. And they cried unto Yehovah and said, we have sinned because we have forsaken Yehovah and have served Baalim and the Ashtaroth. Will now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve thee.
Hold it there. So Samuel gave him a recount during Judges, said, look here, I know some of the history about y'all. I'm not everywhere, but the word went out everywhere. But what was going on and how he was living and why these things came up upon you. So now when the word went upon you about why these things come upon you, then therefore, and you admitted, we had to admit that, hey, we was wrong, we sinned. The people in Moses' time admitted they sinned after a period of time, but it took a lot of beat down before they were sinned, and they only satisfied when the rods budded. That quell, that means all the other miracles of the ground opening up and all the other plague coming out and Aaron standing between life and death. And the children of Israel, figure, we can't come near the tabernacle because they're killing everybody that's coming near it. There's actually people during the rebellion after the death of Dathan and Abiram, after the death of Korach and the plague. People say, oh, that's like a bad omen. We don't want to go near the tabernacle because everybody getting near it, other than certain people, they dying. They're killing them. And that's why they had the choices of the rods, and they were satisfied with the rod. Once the rods was chosen, and Aaron's rod budded, that became an issue no more in our history. Only that quelled the argument. But when it goes on to the 11th verse, in 12th chapter, it says,
verse 11 reads, and Yehovah sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and ye dwelt in safety. And when ye saw that Nachash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, ye said unto me, nay, but a king shall reign over us, when Yehovah your God was your king. Now therefore behold the king whom ye have chosen, and whom ye have asked for, and behold, Yehovah hath set a king over you. If you will fear Yehovah and serve him, and hearken unto his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of Yehovah, and both ye and also the king that reigneth over you be followers of Yehovah your God. It goes
All right, be followers of the
15,
Lord your
verse
God.
15. But if
Right
you
there.
will not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh, but rebel against the commandment of Yahweh, then shall the hand of Yahweh be against you and against your fathers. Now
All right there. Hold
therefore,
right there. Before you go to 16. All right. So now that I always say, when you go in the book of Deuteronomy, 17th chapter, 14th verse, to give you starts, giving you the rules of what the king supposed to follow. I said in the past, and it's still true today, the right of true sovereignty must be governed by the sovereignty of what is right. And what is right for us is what the Creator left on record. So the king got to answer to certain things in law. So therefore, even if he violates the Creator's command, then most of the times the people go along with it. And so if a person stand up, then they might be able to say to people. But sometimes the people, most of the time, when the king violate, everybody else go along with it most of the times. And it said that the king is held responsible for making sure the people adhere to the law. He's held responsible for that. All right. Now, 16 verse says,
verse 16 reads, Now therefore stand still and see this great thing which Jehovah will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will
get this for a second. Wheat harvest is when? Around Shavuot. That's the wheat harvest. The barley harvest is around Pesach time. All right, Shavuot around, and so that's summertime, pretty much. And in Israel, we don't have wet weather during that particular time. But let's go ahead, after that question mark.
It reads, Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto Yahweh, that he may send thunder and rain, and ye shall know and see that your wickedness is great, which ye have done in the sight of Yahweh, and asking you a king.
Hold right there. What I said earlier is why they asked for a king. Because the law for a king was already stated in Deuteronomy. All right. And prophesied that you will get it, because we want to be united. So a king supposed to unite it and be responsible for the people to make sure everybody adhere. So you got to have a certain type of protocol straight up the road, But like I said, power is shared, authority is never shared. So you have to have some kind of central point of authority. And that would have been the king. But he had certain things that he had to comply with. All right, 18th verse.
Reads, verse 18. So Samuel called unto Yahweh, and Yahweh sent thunder and rain that day. And all the people greatly feared Yahweh and Samuel. And all the people said unto Samuel, Pray for thy servants unto Yahweh thy God, that we die not. For we have added unto all our sins and this evil to ask us a king. And Samuel said unto the people, Fear not, ye have indeed done all this evil, yet turn not aside from following Yahweh, but serve Yahweh with all your heart.
Keep going. 21.
Verse 21. And turn ye not aside, for then shall ye go after vain things which cannot profit nor deliver, for they are vain. For Yahweh will not forsake his people, for his great name's sake, because they have pleased Yahweh to make you a people unto himself.
All right, right there. That ends the Haftarah. But I'm going to go one more verse. But before I go to one more verse, the thing is, why say evil, to ask for, sends this evil to ask us a king? One of the things is Samuel took it personal. We know Moses took it personal too later on, 40 years later, when he said, must we? But that's another story to be discussed, because there's a lot of parallels there that are not, I'm not bringing out at this particular point in time. But Moses first thought, it was directed, to him. And then he realized, hey, this is about Aaron and the priesthood, not me. And he figured, I'm just giving everything in my family, keeping it in-house. So, and that's why I said, what is Aaron that they murmur against him? But later on, 40 years later, he take it personal. And, he had a lot of things going on in his life. Sister died. The elders that he used to deal with, those guys gone pretty much. So you have a whole new crew, a whole new generation. But it is that we know that when we ask for a king, it's because we want a king like all the other nations. We didn't ask for a godly king. Our king cannot be like all the other nations. When you read Deuteronomy, our king had rules and regulations that he must abide by. And he's under the authority of the creator, the king. But what happened in 23rd verse? And that's where I'm in at.
Verse 23 reads, moreover, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against Yehovah in season to pray for you. Without season and pray to pray for you. But I will instruct you in the good and in the right way. Only fear Yehovah.
Okay. Only fear the servant of truth. With all your heart, consider how great things he had done for you.
But if you child still do wicked,
we want to end on the good. We always want to end on the good note.
Gotcha.
That's why they use the Haftarah, use to end on a good note, no matter how bad it be. But a leader, Samuel, they asked, they realized their sin. They want Samuel to pray for him. And Samuel, as the leader of that generation, though he's no longer the king, was going to be what the people asked for. They didn't ask the king to pray for him. They asked for Samuel to pray for him. And he said, it would be a sin before God if I stop praying for you. So that talks volumes. When a lot of people think, the New Testament stuff, when they say, oh man, nobody could, try to pray and, intercede and, on your behalf and stuff like that. Samuel look at it, and all great leaders and all godly people will realize that it's a responsibility to pray for your people. Whether they're good, whether they're bad, it's a responsibility, for you to pray for them. When they bring a charge against you, like when Moses, then he said, don't have a respect to the offering. That means the offering is already there. But it was a challenge of authority, and the challenge of authority we read later on in that, in the instance that it says when Korach stood up against God. Notice it said when Korach stood against God. Well, Korach think I'm standing up against Moses. I ain't standing up against God. But we read later on in the book that Korach stood up against God. So he didn't realize how deep that thing went, and who authority he's really bucking. So I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes been my own. And I'll greet everybody in the early Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for the time.
Hallelujah. Torah by Nasik. Thank you for your time and for your diligence. May the Most High God bless you, and may the Most High God bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.